Because the tension here is falsehood and truth. Are you living your truth, or you are happy with the candy life of falsehood?
And falsehood, yeah. That's what it comes.
Truth is hard.
Yeah.
It's bitter.
It's difficult.
And that is the actual essence of why you need to find purpose. Because once you find the truth, you believe this is the truth, and you put faith in it, and that scopes your life. Now you don't have to go all over the place to look for why I'm here for.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Black Wealth Connect. I'm your host Fabrice Ominkor, and today we got a very special guest, somebody that I've been looking forward on interviewing for a very long time. From the very first conversation that we ever had, I was introduced to this guest by Shaquille, and ever since we've had conversations, I remember we caught up in a lobby in Melbourne at your hotel where you were staying at, and it was only supposed to be like a 2-minute conversation, but it ended up being a conversation that went for pretty much an hour to 2 hours. So I learned so much from this guy, and like I said, this is going to be one of the episodes I look forward to the most, and I can't wait to get into it. So without any further ado, I want to introduce my special guest, Fundikira Kipaya. How are you today, sir?
Thank you, Fabrice. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. And I hope I got your name right. I'm sorry.
You haven't butchered it. You got it right.
Because I remember you telling me that this back in the days, you always said, "Oh, Fabrice, you need to correct the way I say your name." So hopefully, I was able to get it right.
No. I'm not hung up with that. It's like, if somebody has a different way to pronounce something, I understand. We all come from different times.
100%. So, as I mentioned, like obviously we met each other a while ago, and we've, at certain times we've had conversations, and there's so much I learned from you continuously. And I just want to begin by giving you a rose and saying that, like, in life, we always meet certain people, but there's certain people that can also change the way we think and make us look at things from a different perspective. Because sometimes we could be so, we could have tunnel vision and not try and, and just focus on one thing without thinking about all the variables that might be around it. So being able to speak to you, you've kind of opened my mind up with a lot of things. And I want to thank you, first and foremost, before we kick off the episode. Yeah.
Likewise. For me, I never teach anybody. I'm not a teacher, actually. I'm a reminder.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've got a whole quote about that. I always talk about, I cannot teach birds to fly. However, I can remind the chicken their ancestors used to be able to fly. What happened to them? So that's my position. I always come to learn. So when I'm with you or anybody else, those dynamics teaches me.
Yeah, and I feel like you're somebody that, that teaches people. So it's amazing to also hear that you also like to continue to learn, because that's obviously how you grow yourself. Yeah. I didn't mention from the intro that you are a transformation coach. So that is something that you specialize in. You've helped a lot of people, which we're going to get into, but that's what you specialize in. So let's kick it off. So you growing up, because, let's hear a bit about your background, because obviously, all this knowledge right now about like just, mindset, being able to change the way people think, the way people view life, but all that didn't start from today. It started from, your upbringing and where you came up from, your life experiences. So could you just walk me through how your upbringing was, where you're originally from, and what was your childhood like?
Wow. Have we got time?
We definitely got a lot of time. For you, sir, we have all the time in the world.
My name is Fundikira Kipaya. I was born in a very beautiful place in Africa. It's called Tanzania, in East Africa, neighboring, for those who need more reference, neighboring with Kenya, Uganda, Burundi, Rwanda on the side, Congo, Mozambique, Zambia. So we're kind of like placed in the Indian Ocean spot, where there was a whole thriving trade, which is known on the other side as Silk Road. But our ancestors interacted with people from these lands of India, Persia, Arabia. okay, for thousands of years before the European even discovered that we existed there. And that was a whole land went through. So from that, we developed a tradition of storytelling. And I grew up in that time where, I had access to up to maybe 4 generations. Like I was the fourth. Like I saw my grandmother's grandmother.
Wow.
And I saw how they interacted. And then by learning, you're learning by osmosis, really. You don't really, nobody sits there and tells you, this is how you think, or this means this, or this means this. You actually observe and absorb. You pick things. And then I developed curiosity from that, and I was lucky also to be sent to a good school. And there I developed more of my curiosity. And that took me to where I am now. I believe that because there was a subject called nature study, and we were only little kids. And the teacher would take us out for action learning, okay? Active learning, basically. You go pick up bugs or look at leaves or trees or something which was teaching us science, history, geography within, and then also even art. So after we picked all those things, we can go back and draw about the story and then make stories out of it, okay? So, and then I become more interested in linguistics. And so when I'm learning through linguistics. I'm learning through science. I'm learning through history. I'm learning through psychology. I'm learning through so many broad knowledges which have been broken down by standardization. So for me, I'm interested in human potential. I want to know everything about what makes a human be who they are, or what motivates them, what drives them, okay? And I quickly, after growing up, I came to realize it's actually thinking. And then where is your thinking coming from? That I had to create some kind of framework to explain. Like, for example, there was eras like mythology, theology, philosophy, which got us science, which got us industrial revolution.
Yeah.
And if you sit with people, when you're talking to people, you will find some people have orientation of more mythology or more theology or more philosophy or more science. And you can see that. It's very clear. You can hear it. You can feel it. And then you have other people who are interested in all of them. Okay? So you can hear thinking. And our thinking is influenced. Nothing we came original.
No, never.
We are influenced by something.
100%.
We are programmable like computers.
Yeah.
Okay, so your culture, your creed, your class, your country, where you're from, yeah? All of those things makes your thinking a part of it. So when I was growing up, I was interested in elders more than friends who I enjoyed playing with, but I was interested in listening to the conversation the elders had, the storytelling. And we used to have occasions, those days we didn't have televisions. So our parents were like the media. Our ancestors, like aunties and grandparents, they were the ones giving us programs. Like today, they're going to tell us a story about tortoise and rabbits and whatever, and then we're going to learn from that. Okay, and another day, we're going to be given like a scary movie, It's about these things which are, monsters, whatever. It comes from mythology, right? Yeah. And then some days we are taught theology, we're taught about prophets. We're taught about all these things. And for me, that was an interesting part because in school, you're not taught that way, in a conversational way. And you don't get to ask questions. But as you grow, you're learning without asking questions. And that was an interesting part, which was the opposite here. I have kids here, and the kids will ask you why for everything. Yeah. Well. And we didn't learn about why. So we learned why very late in life. Yeah. We absorbed everything which was around us. And the parents, like my grandfather, he was amazing. My maternal grandmother, he was amazing. He had sound effects when he was telling a story. You could feel and you could visualize, you could see the whole picture of what he's talking about. Oh, yeah, yes. So you get engaged so much.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, you find yourself in it.
There are good storytellers out there, yeah.
And then there's some other stories, it's like you can't go to sleep. Yeah. so scary. Yeah. So and then as I went on, this was like on my formative years. So by the time I was 13, 14, 15, I started asking one question, which probably a lot of people in the humanity ask: what is the purpose of us being here?
Yeah, that's and we're gonna, you know what, we're gonna get to purpose.
Yeah, I'm just gonna mention that because I'm gonna not go ahead and I'm gonna wait.
Yeah, no, that's actually a very good thing that you've mentioned, because literally just yesterday we had shout out to my brother Junior, because we were at his house yesterday, and we were talking about the importance of purpose, and you having a purpose on earth can really keep you grounded, because we can, in this, obviously in this world there's so many things that we get distracted by, and we need something to keep us on the right path. But before we actually get to that, I want to ask you the importance, because everyone that I speak to that has grown up in so you grew up in Tanzania.
In Tanzania,
A lot of people that I know that have grown up in Africa, there's one thing that always connects them to Africa, and not even just Africa, but just one thing that connects them to where they were now, all the way up until now, where they were before and where they are up to now is nature. Like, I really want you to explain how important nature is, because now in this generation, now the kids, they don't, we got iPhones, we have all this technology. There's no one really going outside and playing. We're consuming, and as you mentioned all the time, all we're doing is consuming things. So just walk me through, like, how important was it for you growing up as a child to be connected to nature? What does that mean to you?
that's a very good question, actually, because, like I said about nature study, for example, we were interacting with nature, and I was in a town where butterflies were still coming out in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, bees. You see all these things. Not just that, even the domesticated animals. I had an opportunity to go to the village and learn from the kids in the village to look after cows, or goats and things like that, and go into the rivers and swim in the rivers and all the. These are not the same as going to swim in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
This is a very different experience. You're swimming with other beings and creation. There's fish in there. There's nature. And unfortunately, some of them have bad experience as well. You could get diseases.
Of course.
But that is the grounding, and the difference between modernity and the past is that civilization takes us away from nature.
Exactly.
Okay, so for me, when I go there, nature's right in my face.
Yeah.
It's right in my face. Yeah. Whereas here, if you want to go to swim in that swimming pool, you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's all transactional.
It's all transactional in this society that we live in today.
And that has kept me making comparative studies about my background and where I moved to in Australia. Okay, so my mind goes back and forth between the two. I have a point of reference, which these things used to be for free.
For free, yeah. You can just.
But now I have to pay for it.
Even land, just using land as an example, how much money is made from just the sales in land, and and then on top of that, they always put something on top of the property tax, and like there's just so many things that continues to grow, and they always look for avenues to try and make money. Where you're saying in Africa, everything is just. It's right in front of you. It's almost like given to you as like a reward of being there and growing up there. Like you said, you connect to the trees, all that stuff. So I always find there is a massive difference between people that talk, like how people talk about Africa and how they connect to Africa is such a beautiful thing from the people that I speak to. That's why I mentioned how important, as you mentioned, how important nature is to you.
Yeah, for me, I've learned for example, from bugs. I look at ants, the way they operate, and then I can transfer that into how we operate, okay? And you see the difference and the stark difference. These ants are hard workers, They carry things bigger than their weight, and they will manipulate and do all these things together, right? And then now that is the collective side of things, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm from. And then I come here, everything is individualistic, okay? Yeah, so it's that contrast of culture. It doesn't mean that individuality is a bad thing and collective is only a good thing. No. Yeah. They need each other. It's a duality, and how you interact with that is sometimes that's where things go wrong. Because if you insist on collective values by themselves and then ignore the individual side of it, you can actually cause a culture of laziness, a culture of low trust, a culture of not wanting to have good work ethics, a culture of low values, because now Fabrice will do that, something which you are responsible, okay? So, and that explains also even freedom, yeah? I was taught freedom with responsibility, and then I come here, there's almost freedom with no restraint.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
But there's consequences for doing whatever you want. But
I mean, that's how I see through my cultural lens. I can see freedom is good, but it requires to go with its duality, which is responsibility. And then freedom without restraint is also problematic. So I try to balance, and that's life. You balance the two. You understand this works and has its advantages, sometimes to be a little bit wild and curious and learn something, through experience, and, let go and just do it. But sometimes you have to, set back and watch and think about it and, go on a retrospection and introspection. Yeah.
That's crazy. So you're obviously, you growing up in all this stuff too, like it's amazing, like all this stuff that you talk about. So your curiosity came from really nature.
Yeah.
And then from there, as you continued to grow up, did you go into like any courses? Did you study anything? Like, was there anything that kind of like, what was the transition between you just learning with the bugs, growing up in Africa? What then took you to the next level? Was it education or where did you go to next?
Okay, so school is conventional. You have to go to school.
You have to go to school back in
Okay. And I learned a lot from school, and I loved school. I never ran away from school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because my environment at home was a little bit
I wish I was like
you. 12 kids. We're growing up in the same place, and my father was very strict and all that. So I felt I was exercising freedom better in school.
Oh, better, okay.
Yeah, even though school was also strict.
Yeah.
But you cannot compare with my father.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had always go to school. When I go to school, I learn a lot. And I loved pictures. Before I knew how to write, I was able to draw. Okay? And that's my passion. Even now, even my words, when I talk, I try to draw pictures.
Yeah, I can feel that. I can feel that.
It's that's my literacy.
I think that's what keeps people engaged to what you say too.
Yeah,
and I think that.
And sometimes I get too animated and I go on and on and on. But that's my passion. I love to learn.
Yeah.
And I love to share.
Yeah.
So I have a saying. I say, before I can care, I have to prepare, so I can share.
Yeah. Nah, definitely. That's one of your Fundi quotes. Yeah. Now that's awesome. So obviously you loved school. You continued to after you graduated. So what was the transition between like you, obviously being in Africa? Did you finish all your education back home? I finished all my secondary education there, and I went to college for a couple of 3 years. Different courses in business. I learned in business. Yeah. And I worked for Central Bank and all that. But before I went to college, there was one other thing which was revolutionary for me. I met a martial art teacher, and I wanted to learn self-defense. And it was the days of Bruce Lee. So we thought you just go there and just learn how to kick and do this. And this teacher was watching us doing all these moves, and he's watching us, and he said, "Come over here, sit on your feet." Sat on our feet, and we were taught how to meditate. We were now being cultivated to think that we are going to be very dangerous because we're learning martial arts. Martial arts is a killer. You can kill somebody easily. Oh yeah, with martial arts.
With techniques.
Some of the stuff that you see.
Yeah. So you're taught to actually learn self-defense, not offense. So you don't use your learning to go and fight people.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay, you are even taught to run away if you are faced with adversity of So that's when I learned how to think, and to slow down, and to reflect, and to see dimensions of life which, if you don't do that, you're not gonna see.
What were some of the things that were taught? Like in order for you to actually slow down, be able to meditate? Like, what was some of the things that the martial arts teacher was
Self-talk. For example, self-talk.
Self-talk. Okay.
So you learn to listen to your voices inside you. Okay? To be insular, to think from inside out, not from outside in. Okay? So, for example, there's a voice which is bugging you to go and do something bad. Okay? So you have to learn to stop that orchestra and to control that orchestra inside you. So to be upright, to be more pious, to be teachable, to learn, and not to try to be a teacher everywhere. So all these things, which explains that, when you're born as a big toolkit which is full self-fulfilling.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
It gets corrupted as you grow up because of the environment you're growing up. So you are taught to come back into that nature.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Yes, that nature to think you are as important as anybody. There's 8 billion people, but you're unique.
That's very powerful, and they teach that in martial.
Yes, and then I started reading about it more, and then I expanded to read all these different philosophies. Then they were all bringing us to be centered and to become, purposeful, not just being, somebody who is not useful in society. So to become useful, to be purposeful. And then that showed me a way probably I wouldn't be able to, because, we come from a small town, and there was a lot of trouble, a lot of gangs, and people doing drugs and drinking and all things which you cannot associate with Africa, but they were there in urban centers. Okay? Yeah. So I was playing soccer, for example. I had to quit soccer because the culture in soccer was bad. There's a lot of, drugs and favoritism.
Bad
and all
influence
that kind of stuff.
around
Bad
you and
influence
stuff
and all
like that.
that.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I joined the martial art class. It's a Japanese martial art called Goju-ryu.
Just with that too, with the martial arts, because I feel like you're not the first person I've heard, because many people, even a lot of the kids, like if you watch now, like all the kids that are growing up, a lot of them are actually put into martial art classes at a young age. They always, I feel like that type of stuff you get taught, as you mentioned, discipline, but at the same time too, it just keeps you focused. So do you encourage like martial arts, especially for people that are growing up, like younger kids? I know a lot of people do put their kids in there, but do you recommend a majority of kids should go through that system?
I would recommend that if there is knowledge behind it.
If there's knowledge behind it, yeah.
Not just going in there and just kicking and punching.
Of course, because it teaches you, it teaches you discipline.
Basically, like the Japanese, they've got so much philosophy in that. It teaches you purpose, it teaches you your passion, it teaches you all these things which otherwise you wouldn't learn through conventional education. So, and I learned a lot from that. And by the time I was 16, I was introduced to basketball. I was now in high school.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you didn't have access to play basketball in primary school.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
I loved basketball. I was told these guys were asking me, why don't you play basketball? Some of them were very short, and I loved them.
Because you're quite tall too. Yeah, you're like what, 6'1"?
6'1".
Yeah, 6'1". Yeah, but I mean,
over there I was tall.
Yeah, you were there.
Over there I was tall. I was very tall. So
you were very tall.
6'1".
Yeah.
6'1" is nothing.
Yeah. In basketball it's not. But I don't know. For some reason you seem taller than 6'1". But anyway, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I used to go past there after my martial arts training.
Yeah.
I would pass at the basketball court and watch these guys playing. Yeah. But they keep admiring that you need to be playing with us. Mm-hmm. And then one day they gave me sneakers. Yes. Come and play. And then they showed me how to play. Gotcha. And within a year, I was playing for state.
Wow. What position were you playing?
I was playing
you look
more
like a point guard. No?
Not point guard, but more like forward.
Okay, forward.
Yeah,
okay,
forward,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So I enjoyed to play basketball, and then I met new friends, and it was good. Yeah. And from that on, I continued the thinking and the curiosity. Yeah. So by the time I finished high school, I went to a junior college, which I did a course for 1 year in accounting and things like that. And then I joined the government, and I worked in the government. I did not like it. Yeah. I left, and I went and worked in a private company. And then I ended up working in the central bank. And then I went to do a diploma in business management, business administration.
Beautiful.
And then that's the time I had another important thing happened to me.
Damn.
Yeah, this was through basketball. We had a team in the city I was in, which was playing in club championship in basketball in Africa. So we went to Egypt.
Oh wow.
There I was confronted by pyramids.
Oh, so you saw.
So I was sleeping in this
Yeah,
hotel. I was not aware, and I
Yeah.
did not know.
Yeah.
I knew I went to traditional, Islamic schools where we studied about the pharaohs and Moses and all this kind of stuff,
But to
right?
actually see it.
Yeah. So I did not know
Yeah.
that. It didn't even come into my mind. We're going to Egypt. I was just excited. We're going to go and play basketball and this. And then all I could hear in the morning in my room was this, orchestra of car horns. Bah, 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 bah. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And then the next thing I can hear the adhan, the Islamic adhan from the mosques. So I was curious. I got up and opened the window. And I'm opening the window. I see these pyramids.
God, you just
Which
right
I
in
did
front
not
of you.
know when we got there. It was night. So I did not see it. So in the morning, the sun is rising
Yeah.
and I see these pyramids. And I thought it was surreal. No. Well, I was,
Yeah, it's like
I was
what
like, I wake up all the other guys. It's like, if you see the pyramids, and some of them were aware, there is pyramids. We're staying in Giza, and the hotel was just there.
Oh wow.
So we went to visit, and that was a revelation for me.
Yeah,
I
that-
was like, okay, so here I am. We came 5,000 kilometers away to here. My ancestors knew nothing about this pyramid. They've never seen it. They've never talked about it.
Yeah.
Okay? And who built this with that technology 5,000 years ago?
I know that's pretty. That's
Okay?
That's very.
So my
interesting.
curiosity blew up.
Yeah, yeah.
I was
It
like,
was already on the edge, but
I
after you
need to-
saw that,
I
you were
need
just,
to
yeah.
know. I need
Yeah.
to know.
Yeah.
That's when I went on a journey to wanting to understand human
Human, okay, and how
history,
human
and
potential,
evolution. Yeah, and that's how human potential.
the human
became.
potential, like because obviously you seeing stuff like that, like just like how is somebody able to do that? And I think that's important, like especially with the way you think, because even myself sometimes, like I always, even sometimes when I'm speaking to my partner, I would ask her questions like even just look at like how we're able to travel around Australia on roads, like. Let's think about it. Who has been able to put roads for us to be able to travel all around Australia? Just things like that, oxygen and just stuff that keeps us functioning day by day. Like, have we actually ever just paused to actually look around and actually think about how have people been able to actually put these things in place? Like, it should spark people's curiosity. But I feel like maybe people have just adapted to just being able to see these things as a natural thing, but really it's not that natural. People, and the reason why I say that is just because of the fact that you talk about, like, I believe in your philosophy about how sometimes we should just stop and look around and just, and appreciate
Smell the roses.
it's appreciate exactly what people have done for us. So I want to go back to, actually, so you saw the pyramids. Let's continue from you. So you saw the pyramids, that blew up your curiosity. You were like, how the hell do people do this? You want to now focus on human potential. So what was the next step from there? What took you into that stage of your life? But before we get into that, the banking side of things, how was that in terms of like finance, studying, all that?
I wasn't good at it.
So you weren't, okay.
I wasn't good at it.
So
I
was
like,
it a quick thing? You just kind of...
Yes, I was there for 5 years working there.
5 years, okay.
And I'm not getting anywhere because my curiosity is being disrupted.
And it's not being
And
challenged.
creativity is being disrupted.
I'll be distracted. Okay, okay. So,
What I was doing, I was not meant to do.
but I feel like that would have, by you doing that, made you realize that you weren't on the right journey, and your journey was based on, okay, how do we figure out human potential, and this is eventually what took you into being a transformation coach. Would you say that?
I would say that because what happened is I started applying whatever I'm learning through bringing up of my younger brothers or my nieces, my nephews. I was applying that, and then when I was here in Australia, when I went into corporate world, right? I'm a corporate dropout, I call myself, right?
This college drops out, now you're this corporate job.
Corporate dropout.
Corporate job.
Yeah. I went on a retreat. Remember, I always do retreats. So I went on a retreat and I was thinking about my life, and I was thinking about what I've done in life. Have I even touched a little bit of my purpose, and all those things, and I realized, there is values I have been applying everywhere I went. And they're the ones that are very universal, and they're very universal that, even though it's very hard to fulfill these kind of values, like to be honest, to self-respect, respect others, trust, commitment, loyalty, and living in harmony, and thinking about dignity, human dignity, became very important to me, Even sometimes my kids have given me a hard time. They say, sometimes you don't really live in your values, But I said, my answer is, you cannot be 100%, but all you have to do is strive to become.
Of course,
Yeah,
of course.
that's the most important thing.
Most
because we are human beings. We're not perfect.
Yeah, we have flaws.
Yeah, we have flaws. We're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna sometimes not being honest or disrespectful to ourselves or others, and maybe even distrust. Yeah, or maybe a perspective or a perception of distrust can become without you knowing, because of the way you have dealt with people.
Yeah.
So dealing with people is about relationship, and I knew that at the center of human relationship is trust.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what builds everything.
Yeah. So for me, to build towards trust is, I want to be honest with you, and then I can't be honest with you if I'm not honest with myself. So I can't give you a transaction which I don't have. I can't give you pennies which I don't have. So I had to accumulate my own honesty. I had to accumulate my own respect so I can respect others. And then I had to understand and trust myself so I can trust others. And that's the way you can build high trust relationships instead of low trust relationships.
That's interesting. And trust in general is very important between human beings, the transaction. You can't, as you were mentioning, if I don't trust myself, how then can I go ahead and trust other people? So,
but unfortunately, we do it.
Yeah.
So instead of working on your own first, right?
Yeah.
You just want to deal with the outside world because the inside world is too hard.
The inside world is too hard.
Okay, so before you build a relationship with anybody, it's important to build your own relationship with yourself.
100, and that also applies even just in relationships, like not even just friendships,
Yes.
but actual relationships, marriage, everything. It applies to everything in life.
Everything.
Basically, you would say, yeah.
Yeah, because relationships is exchange of energy.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so every time when you say you love somebody, how did you know that? Okay, so it's to do with how you feel, not what you think.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, when you're with that person, there's a feeling, and you can't ignore that because that's intuition. And then to work on yourself is about your intuition, how you feel. Okay, so that requires what I call connection with yourself. Then when you go to connect with other people and even building into relationships in communities, okay, it makes sense because you understand what it's like to have a relationship. Okay?
100, got you. So even with that, because it's good that you mentioned community, because we always talk a lot about the African community, what you call it, Black community, whatever you want to call it, that there's a big thing around how we trust each other. Because when we talk about operating between Black businesses or even just trying to come together to develop things like community halls, we go to so many marriages. To give you one example, we go to so many marriages, but we don't yet have a establishment of our own that we're able to have weddings at, or even just places where we're able to even just create and create things around, like a main hub.
Yeah, institution
basically. So I really want you to talk about that, because that's something that you've taught me a lot about too. And what do you think the issue is around that when it comes to us coming together within the African community, trying to work together? What do you where do you think some of these things go wrong?
It starts with low trust. We've managed to build values which create low trust. Okay, so being inconsistent with your honesty. Yeah, that doesn't take you towards high trust. Being inconsistent with you respecting yourself and others doesn't take you on the road of trust and commitment. Because I believe commitment is always asked first before trust, which is wrong. So people want you to commit into something, but you haven't really built trust.
Oh,
Trust
you haven't built
requires
trust
time.
until yep,
Yeah? Trust requires time. So if you look at brands, big brands, yeah, they tell you that trust me, I've got the best product, and then you commit as a consumer.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing for relationship is brand. You, after you have calibrate your values, right? That's your brand. You don't want that to be hacked.
Correct. Yeah.
So when you go to present yourself to somebody else to build a relationship, your ammunition is all those values, which builds trust to go high. And we have managed to build low trust, and that's where we cannot build. So, and from that, we don't have trust with our own leadership, and then therefore our leaders don't have enough energy or vision to build institutions like a lot of other communities do. We don't. So we borrow everything. We borrow institutions, we borrow philosophy, we borrow culture, we borrow everything. And that doesn't give us a sense of ownership for that collective value. Yeah. So
do you think a lot of it also stems from, because when we talk about like generational trauma, like, you know, and obviously our ancestors, our parents and things like that, they haven't dealt with their own traumas, like things that things that they until today don't even realize that they haven't addressed. And obviously stuff like that then can go on to the kids, because if you're raising people, but you also have trauma, you're raising your kids, you're also suffering from things which you haven't addressed. That can then filter on to the kids, and then eventually when the kids raise their own kids, that just continues to go on. So it just becomes like this life cycle that just, it's never ending. And obviously it takes one person to try and, you know, hopefully get to a point where they realize, okay, there is something, I need to try and fix this. So do you think that a lot of it obviously does stem from, you know, like generational trauma and things like that? And if there's any way that you think that things like that could ever be solved?
Yeah, so to go through an introspection to understand what had actually happened, okay? And then acknowledge, recognize, and appreciate that there's a lesson learned so that that cannot be repeated, okay? For example, the Chinese, they have a word, they say, never again. Because they went on a relationship with the Europeans the wrong way and they got duped. They were introduced to drugs and all these things and their empires just died. Okay? So, but they've learned from that. So have we learned from our own experiences of slavery, colonization, violence, and things like that? We are still practicing that, which was inflicted on us, okay, on our own people. Okay, you'll see somebody's speaking to you. They're not coming from a corner of love. They're coming from a corner of fear. Okay, and that's the opposite of love. So for us to clean up our hearts, to be fear-free, that requires a therapeutic journey, which is transformational. So it will transform you from acknowledging that yes, we've gone through this rough patch, historical rough patch, which all other communities have gone through. Okay? Why are we the only one crying? Because we don't want to learn what we went through, and we don't want to address that. So, yes, it can be fixed through learning and unlearning and relearning.
I mean, it sounds easier said than done. I mean, because obviously there's, you know, as we mentioned, the trauma and everything comes through, you know, and it just filters on, continues to filter on. So when you say learning, I mean, what are some of the things that, like, let's say, for example, because self-reflection is a big thing. Like, I think sometimes we need to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and be like, am I, let's say, continuing the problem rather than me trying to figure out a way to, you know, to stop the problem or separate myself from the problem. Like, what do you think some people can put in place or to try and, you know, just things that they can put in place to maybe see whether or not, am I the issue, or is there anything that I can do to kind of change the way I'm thinking? Like, is there anything that you feel like people should start doing, like especially from our community too, because sometimes we're not conscious of these things. We don't know, especially when it's been presented to us from, you know, our parents and things like that. Like people will never understand if they're being impacted from generations before. So is there anything that you feel like somebody can put in place?
Yeah, programs like those transformational programs, like I've worked on a transformational program. I created something it's called 7Ps. If somebody goes through that program, you know, they will get to a realization where they can have self-help.
So talk to us about 7Ps. So what do the 7Ps actually represent?
So it stands for purpose, passion, potential. In the middle, there's preparation, and then practice, perseverance, and the last one is protection. Okay? So protection from what you have learned. So preparation is the learning part, which is harder. You know, you have to do a lot of reading to understand the stories. You have to spend a lot of time learning from others, you know, others' experiences, and do comparisons, you know, and then realize that it's not that bad because other communities have had bad than we have. Okay? So we can learn from that. And then from that on, you're lifting your spirit. Okay? You're lifting your spirit and you're sitting in the tracks where that is a framework, the 7P is a framework. So basically, that helps you to self-diagnose, self-interrogate, and go into an interrogation of, your character, your identity, and why you have these behaviors, and how can you change those behaviors, going through your past, and make sure that you address things which are counterproductive in yourself and community, including family. You know, the most important institution is family. Friends, community. These are, marriage. These are important, and we've kind of like ignored that, and we just go on the surface. We don't like to go on the deeper thinking about things. We like to go on the first order things. Whatever it's there, we can see, and that's what we know. Yep. We don't want to interrogate and go at a deeper level through introspection ourselves, to learn about ourselves before we even connect with others.
Other people, yeah.
So when you're prepared and you're ready, you know your purpose, you know your passion, You're blowing up your potential. Now you can connect with people who understand the same thing.
On a higher level.
Yeah, on a higher level. And therefore your potential blows up, becomes bigger. When you go to practice, which is the other side of the wing of the framework, you're putting your practice with value-driven, purpose-driven practice. Now you're serious about what you're doing, and therefore you have values which influence your mindset and work ethics. Okay? Now you're connected, you're using your creativity properly, you are caring about your wellness and others' wellness. Yeah? And that brings us to how I see these two words, health and wealth.
Please, talk to me about that, health and wealth. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
These words, if you look at them, if you're interested in linguistics or words, it's the same word. You just take H out, you put W, it becomes wealth. Yeah. So which one is better than the other, or which one is important than the other? So dealing with duality and the tensions of idealism and realism, it's very important in life. You have to know how to balance all these dualities. So I've heard somebody who was a very successful CEO of a corporation. I think it was Combeck or somewhere. He was presenting, saying that he's regretting because he all his life pursued wealth and compromised on his health. Now his wealth is being used to compensate the health he lost.
Oh,
so he's spending a lot of time in hospital
and doing wow.
And yes, because he neglected health because he was a young guy.
So he just ate whatever. He didn't really care. Late night shifts. You just stay up late. Pizza.
And that's part of our history, especially men. Okay. Yeah. By the time we're 12 or 13, historically, we used to go to war. Okay. Now we don't have wars, but the good thing is we commoditize sport. So now we can direct
like
our
combat.
energy. Yeah, you can direct war energy into sport, and you can see that the way we chant, the way we play. Yeah,
It's actually very
yeah.
true. Yeah.
Even
Yeah,
the
the way
language. If you listen to the language, the coach is giving you strategy, which was a war
It's
strategy.
a war. Yeah, you're actually right. Because even if you watch that,
Yeah.
it's interesting you said that. So I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
if you even watch movies like 300, like or the ancient Greek movies and things like that, you see it's almost like you can see the comparison between NFL, for example.
Yes.
They're colliding. These are it's almost like you're watching a war.
No,
Realistically,
it's exactly that,
Yeah,
because
it's
the kings
extreme.
were smart.
Yeah.
Okay, they thought, okay, we have made society settled now. We don't have to fight micro wars. Okay, if the war has to build maybe 10 years before you fight, whereas in the past you can just get up in the morning and there's a war. You go to war, and that energy was going that way. So, and that's how we are. We're violent and all this because that was part of our history.
Just quickly, one thing I want you to kind of just go back to is because you mentioned health and wealth.
Yes.
Obviously, us being, Black Wealth Connect, it's not always necessarily about making money, but it's also about everybody having a wealth of knowledge. Obviously, the information you're putting on this platform today is going to inspire a lot of people on the way they view life. But how important is it to have, and also mindset, so, mindset, health, and wealth, like how important are those things together? Because personally for me, I feel like, health is one of the things that is very important because it's connected to your mind and the way then you can start to generate wealth potentially if that's the avenue going down. How important are those things if you can elaborate for people? Because I feel like there's a massive connection.
It's important. I'm going to make it in a bigger picture and then condense it into a smaller picture.
Yeah.
So I was talking about health as one word with health.
Yeah.
And I even made a word that I said wealth, but I included earth. Okay? And if you look at those three words, they all have one thing in common. There's EA and TH at the end. EA. So health, wealth, earth. So I made a word called wealth. So if you really care about purpose, you have to know all those three things to a level where you can now then balance. Because the earth came without a world. We build the world on it.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then wealth cannot come if you're not healthy.
Exactly, because that's how we were able to build Earth, because people would have been healthy. Yeah.
So sit in the wealth, which is about wellness. It's about connection with yourself. It's about creativity. Okay? And then that combined with the other trio, which is values, mindset, and work ethics, you are ready to practice. Okay? Because you understood the whole big picture about health, wealth, and the earth itself. Nobody can claim they've created material which doesn't exist on earth. Nobody. Whether they're scientists, they're magicians, you cannot. Everything we have here comes from the earth. And we don't appreciate earth.
That's true, yeah.
Okay?
We throw things around.
And the same thing. If you understand yourself properly, you will not ingest what you do. You will not ingest something. If, for example, I ask you, Fabrice, you've got a heart, you say yes. You've got lungs, you say yes. You've got stomachs, you say yes. And then I say to you, Fabrice, you're a liar. What would you say? You're a liar because you've never seen these things. Have you seen your own heart?
No.
You've seen your lungs.
Sometimes I think we all walk around and sometimes we don't even realize we have these things. But
but the moment you become intimate and wanting to know and almost visualize and see them, these things are very delicate. So you wouldn't eat what you're eating. You wouldn't breathe the bad breath and air you're breathing. You wouldn't even have showers of wrong water. As an organic entity, as a biological machine, you work from inside out, not from outside in. So when you do meditation or something and you start thinking about your heart, about your lungs, but you slow down. The idea of meditation is to slow down your thinking or to even think nothing. But I add in it thinking through meditation. So you're thinking about your own anatomy and how important it is to be kept clear of disease.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because the word disease. Yeah? So it's the same thing. So we have moved from a bigger picture, health, wealth, earth.
Yeah.
Now you're thinking about yourself. You are exactly the same. Why we don't have our head on our toes? It's the most important thing is your brain and sits on top of your body.
Top of your body.
Yeah? Yeah, but we have other brains in our body. We've got a heart. The heart thinks too. We've got our guts. The gut thinks too. That's why I say, oh, my gut feeling. That's your intuition. If there's danger this way, you can sense you don't. And you are using your guts. If you say you love somebody, it's your heart telling you that. It's not your intellect. And then you always bring it back to your intellect and start calculating. But the first things which sense these things, which the sense is the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, the skin. Yeah? This gives us the experience we have in the world. Yeah? We visualize, we see things, we hear sounds, we smell certain things, we taste certain things, we have tactile feeling of touching. Yeah?
Yeah.
So that is interacting with your inside. So it is scientifically proven that in your gut there is tissue or neurons which are similar to the ones in your brain. And apparently they're saying the heart communicates more to the brain than the brain communicating down to the heart.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. And when you think about all that and you put that into retrospective, it is like, I think the way the world's been designed right now is like you mentioned, we're consumers. So everything is kind of just sold to us and we don't, and because there's so many options now, I think we've even spoken about this before because we have, every couple Mondays we have meetings and we talk about even back in the days when you think about us being able to go to the shops and buy bread or just buy things. Now there's O2 milk, there's all these different things. So there's so many things now to consume. So at the same time too, I want to ask you the stuff that we consume, because you talk about all this stuff like our heart, our mind, our gut, everything. Like, how important is it for us to operate on a high frequency and be more sharp based on what we consume? Is it like we should be focusing on a lot on what we consume? Right? Is that?
Yeah. So in the world of consumerism, we are provided with hope. So when you pick something out of a shelf, you hope that's the best. Okay? It's hope.
Yeah.
So for me, when I'm working with people to transform, I want them to move away from the hope model completely into awareness and then balance the two. Because hope is important for human beings. Hope is important as awareness. Awareness is where your knowledge is. To become aware, this thing I'm drinking, what has it got in it? Where is it coming from?
We don't even know.
Yeah. So I need to know. And then that's a different way of curiosity, to think about yourself and others around you, and ultimately the earth.
That's a good segue. So you talk about like being a transformation coach. Obviously, with all your years of knowledge and your curiosity, trying to figure out exactly what it is, just seeing the way the world, the universe works, for you to become a transformation coach, like after such a long time. So you mentioned one of the things that you teach in terms of like where people should, like how you try and make people think differently. What are some other things that you teach when you're a transformation coach to people that want to change the way they think?
I teach something not teach, but I share.
Share.
I share something. I like acronyms, so I created this acronym with the word CORE. So CORE. So curiosity, observation, reflection, and exploration. If you sit in that cycle, you will start appreciating things you would never appreciate. Okay? And that can take you on a whole journey of going through reading, attending exhibitions, attending art, theater, whatever, appreciating architecture, even curating things for other people to share with. Okay, you're gonna go through so much. Like for me, if I'm going to a new city, if I want to know about it, I want to know who built this city.
Yeah, you want to know all the
Yeah,
ins and outs.
yeah. So the best way is to ask a shopkeeper or an attendant somewhere, or go to the museum, to the gallery. Okay, there might be a show, but it will touch history somehow. That's how I found out about, for example, Dubai. I got there, like I used to fly with other airlines coming from Africa to here, and then Emirates came, and I land there. I'm like, who built this on the desert? Yeah. And
I think a lot of people had that. I think a lot of people were thinking the same thing. Don't worry.
Yeah. So and then I spoke to the guy at the shop, and I said, who built this? And he mentioned Sheikh Maktoum or something. Yeah. And I said, does he have a book? He said, yep. I bought the book. I couldn't put it down. By the time I get to Tanzania, I was half the book. There was this thick book of a biography of this family which built that. They say in Dubai, 1980s, there were only 20,000 people.
Damn.
Look at it now.
Oh yeah, now it's a thriving city.
So that is human potential we're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there was 3 generations to build Dubai. First, it was built on vision. Yeah?
Correct, yeah.
And then send the sons to the right schooling. And they came back. The vision now, there's clarity. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is doable. Now they're implementing. And bang.
And bang, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And it all starts from a vision. Like, I mean, that's the way we operate.
So if we go back to our community, that's what is lacking. We don't invest long term. We want instant gratification for everything.
We want the results right now.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, which is not possible.
You can only do that if you want to buy a suit or shoes or something.
But when it comes to evolution or creating something,
it
takes time. It takes time. Yeah. Like the famous quote, Rome wasn't built in one day. Like it takes time.
Absolutely.
And I think we've just been, as you mentioned, so you're saying that's what lacks in our community.
Yes. That idea of building vision coming from leadership or from top down or down from bottom up, it's not there because of trust, low trust.
No trust.
Yeah. So if I come and I come up with a grand vision of something, people will say, Fundi, please. Since when you can do that? Because they don't trust what I'm talking about. Okay.
Yeah, it's really not.
But if you've seen
funny,
it,
but
you've
it's
seen
sad.
it. Yeah,
it's actually sad. Yeah.
So if you've seen it before, right? Why can't you dare
do it? Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, that's when I see something we're talking about which is good. I want to be a part of it. I want to do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I might even not have enough skills to do that, but just that encouragement, that what I call triple E, that exuding of the energy of excellence in something. When you're directing your energy to something, something will come out.
Something will come out of it. That is very, very true, because even like I told you, the reason why I got into finance too is because of my mom. She always used to tell me, because I was always a curious child too about how people, acquire property. I've always, when I was young, I'm like, how the hell are people owning buildings, commercial like what? Like, do you need to be wealthy? Like, what is it? Like, and that's why when I got into finance, I started understanding how people actually acquire these things and come to realize that these are one of the issues when we talk about in our community too. There's a lot of people assume getting things is such a difficult thing, but realistically, it's not. There's a blueprint for everything. Like, if you just follow the blueprint, it will work for you the same way it will work for anyone else. Yeah. But except, like, you always talk about fear. I think we always have that fear, like, it's not possible. But really, it actually is possible.
Yeah. So those dualities, like, we eventually sit on waiting for serendipity. Serendipity is about leaving things to choice, to chance. Okay? But the duality is strategy. Now, when you go into strategy, you're now making things into choice. You make certain choices to get somewhere. strategy, the word strategy, the way it's used by army, is like how to get there.
It's planned, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how to get there? So those steps. That's what strategy is. But we always get hit by serendipity. So I was minding my own business. I bought a ticket and I got a lotto. If you don't have preparation, you're not going to retain that money.
You're not going to retain that. Exactly. That's
Okay, you're not going to retain it.
even if you win
it will either strangle you,
yeah.
or you're going to destroy your whole community.
Yeah, and that's why we talk about purpose, because purpose is and I really want you to just nail down on purpose. I know you've talked about it in certain parts of this conversation, but I really want you to just specifically say how important having purpose in life is. Like, please, if you can elaborate on that, because we're
very important. It's actually fundamental for humans to actually pursue that, because the tension here is falsehood and truth.
Mm-hmm.
Are you living your truth, or you are happy with the candy life of falsehood?
Of falsehood, yeah. That's what it comes.
Truth is hard.
Yeah.
It's bitter.
It's difficult.
So and that is the actual essence of why you need to find purpose. Because once you find the truth, you believe this is the truth, and you put faith in it, and that scopes your life. Now you don't have to go all over the place to look for why I'm here for.
I love that, yeah.
So you know.
It's so true.
So you know, and that gives you that scope. Okay, so you work. Okay, now if you add that with passion.
Mm-hmm.
And passion comes also from inside you. Your purpose comes from inside you. Nobody can tell you what's your purpose. Nobody. It's the time you spend having self-talk, listening to the voices, agreeing with the ones you think they're on the truth, and disagreeing with the ones which are on falsehood, and then figure it out. In religion, they talk about God and, devil or something, yeah? So there's that duality. It is the same thing for you as an individual. For instance, if you were by yourself, what would you do? Where would you get anything? Because when we came here, we didn't have any writing. We didn't have any stories, nothing. Our ancestors were the first scientists. They had to discover what to eat and what not to eat.
Correct, yeah.
Okay? And then they build culture out of that. Even from that, greed. Even from that,
Greed,
yeah. So they say, hey, these are my trees. You can't have this.
One thing I also want to ask you too, now that's very important you say that, is, because along the way, even if you know your purpose, like let's say, for example, like you win $1 million, or not even $1 million, because this is actually we were talking about this, as I mentioned, just yesterday with one of my close friends, and we were saying that it's important to find purpose in your life, but along the way, there's always going to be distractions. There's going to be things that come in your life. Like, let's say, for example, if you don't have any purpose and God blesses you, or whoever blesses you with $20 million, you win the lotto.
That is
if you don't have any
serendipity, yeah.
Yeah, if you do not have any purpose, then it's easy for you to be sucked into many things that are going to take you off that journey. So how do you think that one can stay focused on their purpose without being distracted?
Okay,
is it discipline? What is it? What do you think?
So you've asked a very good question, because in my framework, purpose is one, and we go to 7P. The 7th P is protection. Protection for what? From being hacked. Once you find your truth.
I got you. Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you always constantly develop your own rituals of how you can always go back and review your purpose and protect it. Okay? So, I don't know, you meditate, you pray, I don't know, you fast.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's something spiritual. It has to be something connected with you.
Yeah.
That reminds me of my purpose.
You just need to practice it.
You hold that.
Yeah, you practice.
You see even sports people, yeah? Sometimes, they've got their own way of doing things. Somebody can't hit the tennis ball unless they scratch themselves, or they do this. Those are reminders of who they are, and that's their brand.
Yeah.
So your purpose is your brand. It's your truth, and that's your toolkit to navigate this complex world we've created.
Complex world that we're living. Yeah,
we've
exactly.
created,
Because you always have to. As you mentioned, you need to practice, but at the same time, you always need to remind yourself what your purpose is to stay on the right journey.
Yes.
Even if it's like a weekly thing, a monthly thing, you always need to And I feel like that's right.
So I get asked, I'm a Muslim, I get asked questions, why do you pray 5 times a day? I connect with my Creator 5 times, right? And that reminds me of my purpose.
Of your purpose.
Because I need to reset. Every 3-4 hours, I need 2-3-4 hours, I need to reset. Because, even a camera needs a break. Even a laptop needs a break. Even a watch needs a break.
Everything needs a break, yeah.
Okay, we don't do that. We continuously go on a journey of stress, anxiety, and depression. Okay? All right, so the reason why we have flight, fight, which comes from our gut brain, So something scares you. Our ancestors, for example, let's go to our ancestors and evolution, right? Yeah. They use that, but they use that in the minimal. You don't get chased by a lion all day. You get chased by a lion for 30 minutes, you find a tree, you hide, you wait, they go. Your heart goes back to normal.
Yeah.
But our lifestyle now, the way we work, the way we've created production, the way we are productive, the way we perform, it is high energy, high stress, anxiety, and always sink into a depression. And because why? The example of that is a flight fight. Like you're running away from lion for the whole year. So your heart is not beating at the right frequency.
Yeah, because if you don't pay your rent, you get kicked out. If you don't do this, like everything needs. There's always a demand for something that will just One thing I also wanted, because that's a very important topic. But one thing that we've spoken about, which I would love for people to hear about, is the information that's in this world today. Because if you look at the kids, they have TikTok, they have Instagram, they have Facebook. There's just so many social media platforms out there that because me growing up, as you mentioned, from your generation, the information was provided to you by your relatives. They would talk, they would tell you the latest information. Now, the information is consumed so much. How important do you think it is to not consume so much information, and for you to kind of just stay focused on, if you believe a certain thing, then just try and focus on that, because it's very easy to get distracted. How do you think, so my question to you is, how do you think information's affecting the world today that we live in?
Well, there is an information overload, there is an information overflow, and that is very destructive in a lot of ways, and it's changing our culture completely. So for me, I would say, I would prescribe something I call ABC. So access, balance, and consistency. It is not necessarily a bad thing to interact on a phone or connect with digital programs, whatever. Yeah, it isn't. But unfortunately, we have tendency to overreach. We are excessive. Okay, but if we can balance all these things can be used as a learning tool.
Correct.
It's fine. Yeah. But we're using it as an entertainment tool only. Okay? I don't mind. You can watch pornography to learn, but don't sit there and become part of it. Okay? So all these things, unfortunately, if you look at the newer generation, even when you speak to them, you have to entertain them. You cannot give instruction. Okay? You have to entertain them. And that's how they're used to. They've been babysat by phones and iPads and all this, right? So they interact with that thing. That thing doesn't yell at them, doesn't do any of that. It just plays like that. So if you come up with a big voice like mine, hey, you need to do this and this and this. Okay, so I need to see a psychologist.
So I'm not laughing at the psychologist, but it's true, because they're not used to that.
Take instructions.
To take instructions.
They're not even prepared to do that, because we grew up. One day you're gonna go to war. If you don't take instruction properly, you're gonna lose your head.
Yeah.
So now we're preparing our kids to be a little bit, don't look at me too bad. Don't look, all these things. Everything is harmful for them. So you have to be very careful. And that's where we talk about even the generational gap, not just the generational trauma, the generational gap, which is interesting phenomena. Because now a newer generation is not interested in the older generation.
Yeah.
But they demand for us to understand them and not the other way around. So I always encourage young people to also become interested in understanding the previous generation.
The history.
Yes, to get the full cycle of 360.
Of what's going on.
Yeah, 360. Because I know you're learning online, yeah? But there's some things you haven't learned. These people have experienced. Okay? And the gap now is bigger. But if I think about me when I was growing up, I saw my grandmother's grandmother. My kids, they're lucky they saw their grandparents on their mother's side. On my side, none was there. So they did not have that interaction. Whereas me, I had relatives everywhere I went, I learned.
That's also why I look at my parents different too now, because obviously, you know, growing up, now when I've got to an age where I think about all the traumas and everything, I look at them different now. When you're younger, you know, you look at them like they're your parents. Oh, can you give me this? Can you give me that? But they've also suffered too. We don't even take that into consideration. A lot of people don't, you know, especially them coming from what were they experiencing back in Africa? You know, my mum told me they used to have to sell, you know, things at the market just to buy a ticket to come like that. They've gone through a lot of stuff that we take for granted. So when I go talk to my mum now, like I completely talk to her differently.
With humility.
Yeah, with humility based on the fact that I wouldn't be where I am without her sacrifices. And I think that's what people need to try and understand, especially dealing with parents that come from different countries and migrate into a country where they didn't even speak the same language. You know, it's difficult for them.
Yeah, so the newer generation for me, I suggest more to understand that when they're learning on this online programs and whatever it is, yeah, somehow there's a lot of subliminal message about status. Okay, so they don't understand service giving, so it's more status seeking, and that is self-destruction. Because if everybody's going to be a celebrity, everybody's an influencer.
I know.
Okay, so who's going to give service? But the people who made Facebook, they gave service to society. You got it?
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you are becoming a consumer of it. You just want entertainment. Think about it. Maybe we can come up with something else which will extend Facebook into something else during the AI time and all these other programs we have.
Yeah.
You know? But we don't have that time because we're busy entertaining. You know, we're busy being entertained. So another duality is, you know, what is status seeking versus service giving. Status seeking, if you listen to it, it's got this ease, elitism, exclusivity, expediency, excess. Those are the things which are encouraged in consumer society. But if you think about service, okay, you will think about duty, humility, inclusivity, responsibility, accountability. So status, in one way, it's not a bad thing, but it's a reward of service.
Yeah.
But you don't start with status.
You don't start with status.
No. Newton, for example, Isaac Newton is a big, best scientist, yeah? Or a lot of other scientists who created a lot of things which we use now, right? They were just giving service to society. And then after they've left, their status is still remembered today.
The status is still remembered today.
Yeah.
It wasn't the opposite way around.
Yeah, but it's the opposite now. We want to lead the status.
One status, yeah. Even for just not doing anything.
Yeah. I just want to be in this suburb because this is better status.
It's better status, yeah. It's very sad. Look, me and you, we could talk all day. This podcast could probably go until 2 a.m. in the morning. But I think what we'll do is we'll slowly start to wrap up because I firstly want to say to end it, I want to say thank you so much for everything that you have brought to this platform today. I really appreciate it. I think that there's so much to be learned from this. And as I mentioned to you, if these cameras don't stop, when these cameras stop, me and you can continue to go on hours. This is like our normal conversations when we speak on the phone. And I think there's so much that a lot of people can gain from this episode, and there's so much information that you put out there. Now, I know I said I was going to wrap it up, but I'll leave it to you for the last couple of words because I know that you are working on book. You are working on a book at the moment. You do so many things. Please let us know what it is that you're doing, what the next steps are, like where people can purchase things, where the book is at. So yeah, just break it down for us if you don't mind.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. I would like to share, but I'm not going to share it fully. Yeah. I want it to be a good surprise.
Okay.
I've been working on this book. It's called Purposefulness, and it's all about this philosophizing of how you can navigate this world through a couple of steps. You learn to be self-fulfilling. You can do things. My purpose for my transformational coaching is about not people depending on me. I want people to become independent and autonomous learners and thinkers.
Thinkers, yeah.
Yeah, so I encourage to think more than anything, because if your thinking is right, you can learn better.
Correct. That's
But if your thinking is crooked, then you can learn things, but you can't connect things. And for me, I'm interested about analysis, okay, comparative studies, analysis, and also finding insight and synthesizing to get to wisdom.
Gotcha.
That's my drive. And by being prepared, care, and share, I've done my job. So if you learn the framework once, you can reuse that and even share with other people. I don't mind.
That's beautiful. And it's very clear from hearing everything that you say that you found your purpose. And I think that's what everybody's objective, from what I've learned in life, should be. Everybody should be trying to find their purpose in life. And once you do, you just start to look at life differently. And my purpose, obviously, what I'm doing in terms of Black Wealth Connect, and just going through financial issues when I was younger, not understanding how money works, or not even just understanding how to connect with people, because so many people have a different mindset and a wealth of knowledge like yourself. So there's so much I'm able to learn from you, and that also can then continue to keep me on the right purpose, and I think it's amazing. That's why I was so excited to have you on the show, because everything that you brought to this platform is going to be used in the future. There's going to be many people that can gain this information and use it in their everyday life to be able to make sure that they find their purpose. So thank you so much, Fundi, and I really appreciate having you on the show, as I mentioned. And appreciate it.
My pleasure. I appreciate that. And it's always good that we catch up like this, and we share these things. It's important in humanity. It lifts up humanity. So we've gone through so many different eras. We've gone through agricultural revolution. We've gone through industrial revolution. Now we are transitioning into digital revolution. I see there's a problem. Okay, so if you ask me, what are the three most challenging things in modern humanity, the first one stands out is relationships. Nothing technical is a problem for modern humanity. Another thing is generational gap and trauma. Okay, that's the middle. And the last one is how we transition from this era to this era, crossing over with the same values. So now we've got AI, which could have given us to be a source for healing, to be a source for correcting the past wrongs. We've also now weaponized it. We're using it for punishment and rewards.
We're gonna have a part 2 of this, because I was gonna ask you about AI, but obviously that's another conversation that might take a while. So we're definitely gonna have a part 2 of this. Yeah. But yeah, the AI is a big thing. I know that's changing the world. Everybody has different perspectives on it, so we're gonna save that one. But thank you again, Fundi, and thank you to everybody for watching Black Wealth Connect.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.